Well, welcome to Hamilton County TV Coaches Show. I'm Perry Williams. Alongside me today is Justin Keever, the head baseball coach of the Noblesville Millers. 19th year, coach, 18th season.
Yes, sir.
Because of the pandemic. Over 300, and you have 314 wins. Did you ever imagine you'd be in that position 20 years ago?
No, didn't really even think about it like that.
Yeah.
But in fact, when I was in school, my dream wasn't to be a head baseball coach or anything like that. And got into education and had some good mentors at Avon, and so I love what we're doing. I love what we do, and it's been a good experience.
Coach, let's talk about the 23 Millers. This season, you had a scrimmage at Westfield the other night, which I attended, and I would have to say there was a lot of good things that happened on that field, both at the plate and on the mounds. But let's talk a little bit about some of the players.
Yeah, so one of the things that was not so good on Tuesday night was the weather, but that's kind of this time of year. This is kind of the nature of the beast. But yeah, I really like our club. We got some good experience coming back, and mixed with some good young talent. And within this conference and with our schedule, that we're going to be challenged every day, and we just kind of need to judge ourselves necessarily on wins and losses, which we will, but more importantly, are we getting better every day? Because the goals for this club is to win a conference championship, and to win a sectional championship, and when you can win our sectional, which is sectional 8, you got a chance to do some big things. But at the end of the day, like I said, this weekend we opened up Monday at St. X, which is I believe the #1 team in Kentucky, and I think they're 6 games in, and they'll give us a good test. And what I like about our tough schedule is that there's no fool's gold, and so it's going to reveal some of the things that we need to improve on. And it's one thing for the coaches to know the things we need to improve on. It's another thing for the players to take ownership and understand the things we need to improve on. And but yeah, I really like our club. I mean, I think we've got behind the plate. We got Jacob Edwards, who's started for us last year, made some great strides, really improved, and does a great job of commanding the pitching staff and just taking ownership of the competition out there. And at third base, we're going to start a freshman, which is Aiden Reynolds, who's done a nice job for us. Really come along. He's a special talent, and he understands. What's great about him is that he understands he's got a lot to improve on, and he's really coachable and really blended with the guys here. Trevor Corbett's going to move over to shortstop permanently this year. He's been had a great year for us last year as a freshman. Was all conference, led our team in hitting, and he's gotten better and better and stronger in the weight room, and he's going to have a nice year for us. At second base, we got some guys right now we're still trying to sift out. I do know that when Bryce Briggs, who's going to be our #1 pitcher, who had a great year for us on the mound, he'll be playing over there, but switch hitting guy. But when he doesn't pitch, when he's pitching, we're still figuring out. We got a guy like Tyler Utterback, who's a senior, steady player, and the guy like Brady Bishop, who's a junior and has the ability to play at a high level at times, and we're just kind of working on his consistency, but we do like him as well. And so those 2 guys are going to kind of battle it out, and we'll see how that shakes out. But we at first, Jack Shade, who started towards the end of the year for us, really did a nice job. Like the last week of the season, quite honestly, we started like our last regular season couple games, and then started in the sectional. And nice player, really cares, loves being a Miller. Big fan of Jack, and left-handed hitter there. In center field, we're going to start. We're going to probably roll out Aiden Ramsey, who's a sophomore. He hit a really good fall and really good early spring, and swinging the bat really well, and really still developing to reach his potential in the outfield. Has a great athleticism, great length, and just getting working on cleaning up some of those mechanics out there, and he's only going to get better. Nolan Decker returns for us in right field. He's also going to be one of our top pitchers. He kind of based a lot for us last year. We're looking for him to take another jump at the plate, but he's definitely been steady for us out there in right, and they'll be hitting somewhere at the top of our order. In the left field, we're still trying to work that out. Blake Widget will be one of those guys we're looking at. They're left, really athletic. Gives us some innings on the mound as well, but he'll continue to get better. Josh Peak, Matt's his brother, coached him a few years back, but Josh Peak will be looked on a little bit in left, maybe as our DH as well. And then Connor Seago, the returning player, is a real defensive weapon for us, great base runner. He's a guy that plays in every game, and so he may not start, he may start, whatever, but Connor Seago will enter every game because he is such a defensive weapon for us. On the mound, like I mentioned, Bryce early had a great year last year, and Nolan had a great year last year. We'll look at him make another step. Lucas Steffen is back on the mound. He's been starting since he was a freshman, and he gave us a lot of quality innings for us last year. And another guy, Trevor Corbett's going to look good. He's been looking pretty good in the early season on the mound as well. Having Bryce be able to swing over and play some shortstop if Trevor pitches and when he pitches gives us some flexibility. And then you take a guy like you got Dylan Keever, which is obviously my son. Has really improved a lot since last year on the mound. And then we have Tommy Tallarico, who's again improved a lot, a little lefty. He gives us some different change of pace. Quentin Black is another player that will add some depth there in our rotation or in our bullpen. And I mentioned Josh Peak. Peak's gives some innings as well as Blake Widget. And I don't know if I'm forgetting anybody, but I do know those are some guys we'll roll with. Now we're taking some extra guys with us on a spring trip. They're guys that we like a lot, just young players. So things can be dynamic, rosters can move, as long as we stay healthy. But we got a good core. And behind the plate, Sean McMahon's going to give us some depth behind Edwards. And we do like Sam Deno as well. He's a guy that gives us some depth and really improved a lot since last year. Had a great fall and all that stuff. So we got a nice nucleus back. Got to stay healthy. Like we'll be without Joe Glander for a while. He's recovering from an injury but I do like our depth and I do like our opportunities for some of our guys.
Well, that sounds great, Coach. I mean, in watching him the other night, the one thing, and I should have already known this, but I was amazed. Shade's got good speed too. Mm-hmm. I mean, he runs the bases pretty well. I mean, that gap where he's hit right off the bat mm-hmm. between center and left there, he moves around that field pretty quick. Yeah,
he's been deceptively more speed than you think.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
He's a guy that also gets after the weight room. He clocks in, clocks out. I mean, he gets after it, and I really appreciate his example and his work ethic and all that too. So, but yeah, so we're just some other guys too that I like Jacob Schleter, and it's going to give us some depth there at first base. He's a guy that's really come along. He's a great teammate. Has great leadership, and a guy that we're kind of looking maybe to help us off the bench with the bat is Hunter Corbett. Hunter's a senior, and he comes to work every day and tries to get better, and does get better, and so we're hoping he can give us some help there off the bench with the bat.
All right, Coach. Well, the other part of this team, the Millers, that sometimes don't get the recognition that maybe they deserve, but they're a very important part to you, is your coaching staff. So let's talk a little bit about your coaching staff.
Yeah. So Kevin Fitzgerald has been my assistant. He's been with me for 17 of those 19 years. He and I kind of have a secret language. I mean, we work with somebody so long that you kind of know each other's perspectives and each other's blind spots too, and so I really count on him to challenge me and he does a great job. He's a great communicator. He coaches our hitters and our outfielders. Just really appreciate having him. He's also one of my good friends too. So also we have Scott Henson. Scott started his second year with us. He was a head coach at HSC, I think, for 6 seasons. Won a couple sectional championships over there. Really accomplished baseball coach. He was coaching at IUK there for a year or two as their catcher's coach, and so he is now teaching in the social studies department here at the high school, and he's a great addition to the school corporation, not just our coaching staff and our baseball program. He does an excellent job with our catchers. He's in charge of our defensive alignments and scouts, and he does an excellent job. I'll do on staff this year is Bryce Worrell. Bryce has got a lot of baseball experience, played at Anderson, was an assistant coach at Manchester for several years, was the assistant coach this past season for that school to the south of 146th Street. Did a really nice job, works with our infielders, and he does really it's a grinder. Really is what we had to replace a good coach with Brad Lance, who's sent away a bit more time with his family. He does an awesome job. In fact, he's here today helping out with some things. But Bryce has done a nice job stepping right in. Leading our JV program is Riley Benner. Riley's again an accomplished baseball player. This is I believe his 3rd year with us. And that's first year as the head coach of the JV Black. Our top JV team, and he'll be assistant. He does an excellent job. Great energy, really prepared. Assistant him will be Axel Doran. He former player at UND, pitched there. He's for his first year with us, and so we're excited to have Axel leading our JV Gold program. Is Jeff Neininger. He's been with us for I think 5 years now. Jeff is excellent, really understands people, incredibly organized, great communicator, great energy, great disposition of himself. And then new with us this year is Eric Sturgeon. He's math teacher in our department, Berlin baseball player, and it's going to be a nice addition for us as well. Returning for us as volunteer assistants and spend a lot of time with our guys, especially Ben Yoder. Ben Yoder's a former player of mine, former coach, full-time coach, and you would know he's a volunteer because he puts in as much time as anybody, and if not more. And he does a great job helping me out with the pitchers. Understands what it's like, what it means to be a Miller. Great job communicating with our players. Builds a good relationship with them. And Quentin Miller is also a guy that's been helping us out with the pitchers. And again, he's been coaching in our program since 2016, along with Ben. Was full-time for a while, then stepped back, be full-time with his family, got full-time again, and then they just had a child. And so does a great job. He has a great perspective, good sounding board for me. And so we got these. I will say these players are really blessed to have the amount of adults and the amount of coaches that care about them, but also they really care about the craft and want to get better, and give them that best instruction.
Well, that's good, Coach. Well, the other thing I wanted to talk about also is, as you mentioned earlier about the schedule, and there's no easy games to be played on the schedule, and you've always played a great schedule. And coming up here, you're going to Tennessee. And how many years is this in Tennessee that you played down there?
Yeah, we started going down in 2009. We got Coach Buckner down there. He was at Bearden then. He's now at Farragut. But got connected with him, and then built relationships down in Knoxville. And then Coach Cherry started going down to Murfreesboro. So because there was a scheduling conflict with going to Knoxville, we got hooked up in Murfreesboro with Barry Messer down there as head coach of Riverdale. And so we got good relationships in both places, and it's whatever the schedule works out best, we go to one place or the other. But it's been a really good experience for our players to just kind of get away. What we try to do in our program, and I think a lot of programs right here, I want to give them as close to a collegiate experience as possible. And so that goes into how we prepare in our practices and our off season, and the time that these guys put in, but also like taking a trip that's very similar to what you have on a weekend series and at the next level. And so taking a charter bus and staying overnight for a couple nights in a hotel, and then also playing the best people we can. And the weather's a little bit warmer down there too, so that's nice. But so that first week, we are going down to Louisville for stay next for a day trip. We're coming back that day, but then we'll leave Thursday morning for Murfreesboro and play that evening actually, and playing Collierville. And then, but yeah, we've been doing that. We actually took a trip in '08 down an overnight trip one time down to Kentucky in '08, but we kind of expanded from there and did a good job. Our program, our kids do a great job raising money so we can make that trip, so we can stay in the hotels and take the charter buses and do all that stuff.
You know, and the one thing about it, of course, I think my first year of taking that trip, because I've always enjoyed that trip, was 2014, which turned out to be a pretty good year that season. And but the great thing I loved about it too is it really builds team chemistry too, because those guys are spending entire days in rooms together, eat together, you know, and build that camaraderie, which I think is very, very important in a baseball team.
It really is. I mean, look, Coach Fitz says his best. Like, it's a team sport made up of individual conflicts, right? And so you need each other. This sport is very humbling, and you need each other and build those relationships, not just through the off season, but also now when you get in there, when it really matters, it counts, and to build those relationships, staying in the crowded hotel room, and it's something you'll always remember. They'll always remember their spring trip, and so yeah, those memories, they do matter. That camaraderie does matter, and it matters, I think, for the families too. Families going down and being around each other, because they also spend some time with each other and build new friends and all that stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, and also all the teams down in Tennessee will probably, when we get down there, will have played 10 or 12 games, which are, you know, they really heavy load their schedule at the beginning of playing very, very tough baseball teams. And I don't think a lot of people know, going down there, like the Murfreesboro tournament's usually around 45, 50 teams, okay? 7, 8, maybe 10 states.
Yep. So
you're seeing the best of the best right off the bat.
We really are, and Barry does a great job of organizing that down there, and yeah, it's because we got a lot now. Kind of started a trend. There's a lot of Indiana schools are heading down there for that trip, and it's just a great opportunity to play some good baseball, guys. It's good for us to see like real speed. And so these guys, like you said, are 12 to 15 games in. Like, they're playing the game at a little bit different speed than we probably are right now. It'll be interesting how we look when we get on grass. We haven't been on grass since last spring because this whole had some work done on the dunk, and so we've been on the turf all fall. And then the weather down here has been absolutely dreadful. We've been able to get outside on our turf field, so we've been very lucky. Like this, we were talking earlier, how I'm very fortunate. We get outside 5 days this week, and including a couple scrimmages. So we'll be as ready as we can be. But there will be when we get on that grass on Friday. We'll see. It's been a while, so we'll see how that goes.
Because it is a difference.
Yeah.
One thing I also want to talk about is let's talk about, we're getting into regular season and the conference and the sectional. I mean, it's a bloodbath. I mean, and if you look at the rankings and everything, which absolutely means nothing this time of year, but a lot of people who think they know a lot about baseball, but on paper, but there's some talented teams in this conference, and then we always throw in the sectional. We throw in a team on 146th Street down there in the area. So so talk a little bit about this conference.
Well, it's fun. Like we get to play the best, and then what's great about it is that there's a pride within that league. There's a pride to be a part of the league, and so every game there's a little bit more juice in the building, right, at the end of the facility. So the kids love it. The competition's great. The energy's awesome, and we got a lot of good players. And so the thing is like, who can execute, right? And in baseball, it's a little more of attrition. Who can make the fewest mistakes type of deal. And then now you get into our sectional. Yeah, it's tough, and every team in there can make a run to the state championship. I think I looked, was it last year or so? I think it was 5 out of the last 7 years or something like that. Whoever's won our sectional has been in the state championship game.
Right.
And there's some really good teams up north, right? So that's not a disrespect to them, because they're good. In fact, I think Penn won it last year. So
yeah, they've won it twice in the last 2 years.
So you got good teams in Fort Wayne, you got teams up there near South Bend and Northwest Indiana as well. And it's a good, going north as tough as it is. And then when you have our sectional, which it is a bloodbath, but I tell you what, Perry, it's fun. Like, there's so much, I mean, we have, our crowds are always the top ones in the state. We do our attendance, turn the attendance and all that stuff, the gate, and you come back and see the sectional 8 is one of the most attended sectional, as it should be. You get the best teams all in one spot. I don't really necessarily agree with our tournament format that we use, but it is what we got, and so we're going to try to win it this year again. So,
and I think one thing that's unusual, and I think it's starting to surface more and more with podcasts and social media, is a relationship that you have with the coaches within the Hoosier Crossroad Conference, because it is a bond. And if anybody knows Hoosier Crossroad Conference coaches, they're very highly competitive too. So it's amazing the camaraderie you guys have and the respect.
Right. I think we definitely great camaraderie, good respect for each other. I think that's what we respect most, is like we know the level of competition that we have against each other, and I know I admire the job that all those coaches in this league do with their programs, and we all have our own cards in our deck that we've got to deal with as a high school coach. All high school coaches understands, like, there's no recruiting, there's no grabbing the portal, there's none of that. Like, you have what you have, and you got to make the most of what you have, and we're all playing that same board game, so to speak. And if you go around the league, I mean, everybody does a great job, and they're all, when you go show up in the HCC league, they're ready for you.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of fun. It really is.
Yeah, and one thing about it, you got a new coach down at Southeastern now, but he's no stranger to the baseball program down there, because his dad was the coach forever, and Corey Seitz is a new Southeastern coach. So
Corey's been on staff since I was in Noblesville, so it's not like he's.
And he followed his dad around.
Yeah. So Corey will do a nice job there.
Yeah, and he understands the game and respects. I think the traditions that this Hoosier Crossroad Conference is building baseball, and each school and the tradition they have. Well, one last question, and we asked this question to the other two coaches that we've interviewed so far. What would you say has changed the most in the last 10 years in high school baseball?
Well, I think one obvious one for me is, without a doubt, is the amount of electricity you're seeing off the mound compared to what it was 10 years ago, and the amount of the depth of that electricity. So what I mean by that is, like, just the velocity. I mentioned, like, most of our top guys are probably, if you just go by miles per hour, probably in the low 80s back then, and then now our top guys are mid to upper 80s, where everybody guys we're seeing, like, guys are pushing 90, and it's kind of the norm now, and this wasn't like that then. The other part is that the bats are different too, and so, I mean, since 2012 they changed the bats to the BB core, and balls used to explode off the bat. So you've always had your top guys off the mound, and they'll always be the top guys no matter what generation you put them in. But it's just the depth of people that of arm talent that you're seeing is probably the biggest difference, and then the depth of skill too, because players are more skilled than they were. Not saying player to player, but like the amount of players, the depth of players that are more skilled. They're putting more time into it, and so you definitely see that now. But like we look at our pitching staff, and one guy I didn't mention earlier is a guy like Max Prom, who's come a long way, and He's hitting some personal bests and has a little setback with his shoulder right now, but he's a guy that's where a guy 10 years ago, he'd be a guy who's doing really hard, and now he's kind of mid-pack and doing things well. And so what happens is that we have guys that have to develop other pitches because your fastball isn't special, because everybody's got it. And so can you develop that changeup? Can you develop the slider? You're seeing guys throwing 2-0 sliders, and you would never have seen that 10 years ago. Guys are able to command more pitches, and but what I will say is I'm not sure we're seeing as many strikes, and I'm not seeing the past, and I think that's starting to come back a little bit. The guys are starting to get a little more command than they had, but it's interesting. The electricity on the mound is the big difference that I've seen.
Well, thanks a lot, Coach, and I've enjoyed this interview as I always do. Sitting down and talking to you, I know this is a difficult time for you to sit down and talk, and so we're doing this kind of early here this morning. But one other comment I wanted to make, because of where we're sitting up here in this conference room, and we can look out a window, and every school in the HCC and in this area has a weight room, and that's made a lot of difference in the strength and conditioning of our kids.
It really has. I mean, Coach Metter, you add him there, and Gerald Mickler, who does a great job as our ATC, builds relationships with the guys, but Mitch is with these guys every day, sees our athletes more than we do, and does a great job of pushing them and making them better. And our team lifts on Wednesdays, and then our school lifts, and then all our kids are in a class. And you're right. I mean, everybody's got a nice facility, but the thing is what you do with your opportunity in there, and that's where you're trying to get some space and get some separation from your opponents. And Mitch does a great job.
Absolutely, and he makes sure we do it right, which is important. You can have a big weight room like this, but if you don't do the proper reps and techniques and everything, it's just like in the game of baseball. Sure. If you don't do those things correctly, you're not going to benefit.
That's right.
Well, thanks a lot, Coach, and I guess I'll see you in Tennessee on. I'll probably see you before then, but yeah. I'll see you in Tennessee on Thursday.
All right. Thanks.
Good luck, Coach.